A well-planned out Math Daily 3 schedule gives students structure, it helps you differentiate, and it ensures that you have time for small groups. In today's video, I'm going to break down different scheduling options, how to use Math Daily 3 chart on the smartboard, and how to differentiate small groups for student success. Hey teacher friend, welcome back to my channel. I'm Molly and we're going to dive into math centers today. I know I normally talk about literacy centers, but Math Daily 3 is a huge part of my own elementary classroom and it's part of Daily 5. And so this whole month is dedicated to math and I want to help you set up your centers so that you can get to small groups and be more effective in the way that you teach math to your students. First, let's talk about why small groups are essential in math. Many students experience math anxiety and they shut down and feel overwhelmed. When I switched from kindergarten and first grade to fifth grade, I decided to teach math completely whole group because that's what everybody else was doing on my team, and I felt that I was going to get judged or it wasn't going to work because I hadn't taught fifth grade before, so maybe they knew better than I did, and I felt that I needed to just do that. Well, what I quickly realized a few weeks in is that many students would let a few dominate the math conversations, and there was so much math anxiety in my class that I could tell, getting to know the kids really well, building those relationships, that they were not confident enough to speak out. They had many things that they were missing, and I was having a harder time to get to know their math brain when I'm teaching everything whole group. So I went back to what I knew, which was Math Daily 3. I'd been doing it in kindergarten and first and loved it. And what do you know? My students loved it too. I got to know them so much better, and I knew how their brains worked in math because we were working in small groups together. Small groups create a safe space for participation, allowing students to ask questions. There's less pressure because not everybody's staring at you, and you're also not waiting for the 5 kids that answer everything to do all the work. Suddenly you're in a group of people that are similar to you, and it feels just so much more safe. It's not as loud. We have to think about our kids that do not do well in a big group. I know school, they're forced to be in a bigger group, but that's not necessarily how they're going to respond well in a lesson if they're in that big group. So I try to keep that in mind. Me, myself, in college, I remember that. The big classes I had, I felt like just a tiny ant. But the classes I had that were smaller and more Socratic, I felt the professor really knew me and like they actually knew my name and took an interest in me. And that's what, of course, we want all of our students to feel. Another benefit is that you can target specific skills and fill in learning gaps so much quicker. You can also push advanced learners in a totally different way. I'm sure you've had a small group of math learners in your class that are just so mind-blowingly smart and you wish you had the time to differentiate things, but you're teaching everything whole group and it's really hard to get to everybody and do differentiation in the way that you'd like. But when you switch to Math Daily 3, I think you're going to find that it's so much easier to be able to do that. While group lessons can often lead to passive learning, small groups actively promote engagement, and I will die on that hill. If you've never tried it before, I don't think you can speak to that. And if you do mostly things whole group, but you're still pulling small groups, you're kind of doing it as well. But hear me out. There's going to be different parts of your math schedule where you do want to teach everything whole group. I'm not saying throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm saying that, yes, everybody needs the same tier 1 instruction, but can't we give that to them in a setting that's going to work better for them? I think so. So there's 2 scheduling options that we're going to talk about. You could have a whole group lesson and then break into small groups. So what that traditionally looks like in my classroom is we do a math warm-up that is lower level entry. Everybody can participate. It's not fifth grade level math, and that's intentional. It's to get everybody primed and ready to be a math learner. And if you can answer the questions, which everybody can, then you feel more likely to share when it's time to have your small group. This is my favorite way of doing it. There might be a small mini lesson of something I want everybody to catch, but likely because Math Daily 3 is only 3 stations, then I'm able to get to 3 groups. Our math block is a long time and I have plenty of time to do it, and then they go to their stations after they're done meeting with me. You could also do, as a second option, all small groups and no whole group lesson. It really depends. You can let me know in the comments below how you like to teach math. I love learning from other people, and maybe there's a way that you do it that I'm not even aware of and I could learn something too. Okay, so how do we schedule Math Daily 3? So again, the whole group lesson plus the Math Daily 3 rotations, you're gonna start with a short, focused whole group lesson. That could look 10 to 15 minutes. That could include the warm up as well. I'm just giving you kind of estimates of time, so take it with a grain of salt, fit it in your schedule, let me know how it goes. Then you're gonna transition into the 3 rotations after that. They could be anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. It depends on the group. I don't like having a blanketed time for that because one group might need more time on something that I need to help them with, and that's just how it happens. Not everything is always going to be the same. So let's say you have, for an example schedule, a 60-minute math block. We're gonna start with that 10 to 15-minute whole group lesson, and then we're gonna have the 3 rotations after that, 15 to 20 minutes each, and then we end about 60 minutes. That's a typical math block time. You might have a little bit more, a little bit less. You'll just have to tweak based on what your groups need. This works well if students need explicit instruction before practicing independently. I firmly believe they do. And so they're going to get the lesson from you, and then the math practice after that comes from their math journal that they will do independently. They take a picture of it on their iPad and send it to you for accountability. You check in with them and let them know that they need to work on this, or this, or you can give them extra help maybe before class starts the next day. It's a great way to be able to check in with your students individually and not call anybody out and make them feel insecure. If you're going to do small groups only, let's break down what the schedule could look like for that. So that would mean no whole group lessons. Students just learn entirely in small groups. And again, this is just for differentiation, but you can do it in the last example, which is my personal favorite. So if we're looking at that 60-minute math block, you would have 3 groups. And so that would just be 20 minutes per group. Let's say group A, B, and C, you don't want the kids to know what the groups are. You might be doing it based on skill. I definitely like to look at their assessments and figure out who needs to work on what. Usually skill and the level that they're learning on are hand in hand, and it just works really well to have the groups tiered that way. Again, they're getting the same lesson that everybody else is, but you as a teacher have to tailor it to the level that they actually need. We want them to hear that rich math vocabulary, the language, all of that. It's not about having like a low, medium, high group. It's about giving them what they need. This method gives students direct, customized instruction every single day. I believe both of these do, but I wanted to show you that there's a way to do it with a whole group lesson and there's a way to do it with just stations. So you'll have more time for your struggling learners while also challenging advanced students. That's something I love about Math Daily 3 and setting up your schedule. You'll find that as well, and you can really keep those advanced students on their toes and then customize some more strategy for your struggling learners. So if you're looking for ways to figure out your math groupings, you could look at their iReady scores, and the programming for that assessment will do that all for you. You could give them all a unit assessment every time you're done teaching a unit and figure out what group they need to be in. They don't have to stay the same all year. They can be fluid. You can move them around. So I do recommend doing that because there might be a time where one student needs something, but they kind of outgrow that and they're ready for the next thing. So you could move your groups. I personally love using the Math Daily 3 chart on the smartboard. So if you do move your groups, you have access to that. So you can just edit it really easily and change up the groups. And it's also good for students because we don't always need to work with the same people year round. It's a visual rotation chart that helps students know exactly where to go, and you can train them on how to do this. I have other Math Daily 3 videos about this as well. If you're curious, you can always check the description box below. Anything that I show you that I use in my own classroom will be linked. There's options for displaying the schedule. I think you do need to have something visible. So the one I mentioned that I use is on the smartboard. I prefer this one for flexibility. You could easily adjust the groups, names, activities. But some people like to have more of a pocket chart or something written on their whiteboard, a non-digital option that's available to you as well. I just like to have it digital because it's there. If you're worried about the internet going out one day, you can download it to your desktop and then you have it there, and I prefer that method as well. You're going to show the student groups, their rotation order, and the activities for the day. Make it very simple. Some teachers like to use pictures for this. I've trained kindergartners and first graders on how to find the letter. So if it's M for math by myself. They know they need to go get their math journal out and they're working on whatever it is they're supposed to be working on that I've tasked them with. You're going to keep the transition smooth and efficient, and that's going to reduce the lost instructional time. That's why I like having a chart, because it's up there for them. They hear the song play or the chime, whatever you want to do to get their attention, to know it's time to rotate, and you don't have to go do anything. You're not getting your clipboard out and reading off the names like the traditional Daily 5 method. Math Daily 3 and Daily 5 called for that, but you can have the chart up on the smartboard. Okay, let's talk about some tips for a smooth Math Daily 3 schedule. So again, we're going to keep the transitions quick and efficient. Use a timer. I like to use the Harry Potter Hedwig theme. You can use a countdown, a chime, whatever it is that you like to use, make it efficient. Remember to be flexible and adjust those groups based on our students' needs and how they will change over time. And we need to model expectations. We're going to show students how to transition, where to go, and what to do at each station. We're going to practice it until we get it completely down. And I do have an expectation chart for that inside of the Math Daily 3 starter kit, so check the description box below for that. Remember to start slow and implement one rotation at a time before going full-blown Math Daily 3. We've got to walk before we can run. Just remember that a well-structured Math Daily 3 schedule makes your math block more engaging, differentiated, and effective. And it's going to bring a lot more joy to your students to learn math in a safe space than it is with the entire whole group. I promise you that. Which scheduling method do you prefer? Are you more a whole group plus small groups, or strictly small group, or strictly whole group? Let me know in the comments below. If you missed my video last week about how to set up Math Daily 3, go ahead and check that one out. And remember, this entire month is going to be all about Math Daily 3 and how you can make it work in your elementary classroom. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.